Cooking in Falmouth is made possible in part by the following. Appliances donated by Crane Appliance. Kitchen installation donated by M. Duffney Builders. Specialty Studio Electric and Gallery installation donated by David Rogers Electric. Kitchenware donated by Eastman's Hardware.
Hi, welcome to Falmouth Is Cooking. We're back again after our last show last month, and this is our holiday show. I'm Gail Blakely, your host for the hour, and with me I have Mindy Todd, who I am very grateful that you are able to give up your time and come and be with us. I've been hearing about this chocolate cake of Mindy's for I don't know, quite a while, at least over a year, from her husband, Bob Fenstermaker, of Falmouth Community Television fame. And Mindy, in addition to being a master cake baker, although she says she's more of a baker than a cook, but I think the cake is going to speak for itself. Anyway, Mindy is on local NPR. WCAI, okay. Cape and Islands, been there for 20 years. She's the host of The Point, which is a morning show that covers
everything and anything that has to do with the Cape Coast and Islands.
That's right. And I have had the honor of being on a couple times. It's fun. It's really different than television. It's a lot more
We
relaxed.
don't have to wear makeup
We don't
and
have,
dress down.
We don't have to worry. So Mindy told me that she started in March of 2012.
No.
Manager. You were started being manager in 2012.
Yeah.
But you've been there, so that would have been 21, so that would have been, what's 20 years from 21 to 2001?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And Mindy lives in Falmouth with a grandson and a daughter. Obviously. You got a grandson, you got a daughter, and does like to cook, and I think that she was volunteered for this by her husband, but I am, as I said, I'm appreciative of her being here, and I think this cake is absolutely fabulous. I'm just going to give you
should we get started?
A little peek. Wait one second. I just want to give people
an idea of what
you can see that, but this is how beautiful it is, if we can see it there. That's what we're going to be doing. So
trying to do anyway.
We will be fine.
Yeah,
all right.
Okay.
So Mindy's going to start with making the cake.
Yep. You start with, we have 2/3 of a cup of Ghirardelli bittersweet chocolate baking chips, and I'm just going to microwave those so that they will melt.
If you just press 2, it should just go on to 2 minutes. Yeah.
And then while that's happening, I'm going to add the eggs and sugar. So we have 2/3 a cup of superfine sugar. And you have to use superfine, which is not confectionery sugar, not regular sugar. It's superfine.
It's in between.
It's in between?
It's in between confectioners and it's hard to find. If you can't find it, one of the things that you can do is put your regular sugar in your processor and pulse it about 10 times,
there you go.
and it will get a little more powdery. Just be careful that you don't pulse it all the way, and it becomes confectioner sugar.
I have found it in the local grocery stores. I know Shaw's and Windfall definitely have it.
Okay.
So, all right. Good. So now I'm going to mix the sugar and the eggs to like a mousse texture.
Okay.
Really loud. My old beater is very loud.
Okay.
It's going to take a couple minutes.
Okay. And there's no way to get around this. This is part of the cake baking. So, while Mindy's doing that, I'm going to show you just very quickly how to make some holiday decorations here, if you can hear. And if you can't, I'll repeat it. Let's see. Taking just a sprig of rosemary and dipping it in a sugar syrup and coating it in sugar so that it gets nice and crystallized. And that's going to be some decorations that we're going to be using. Do the same with cranberries in the sugar syrup. And then put them right into sugar. All right, how's that coming? Ooh, looks good. That looks pretty perfect to me.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Almost. You want to make sure, we might have to put it for another few seconds, just because you want to make sure it's all melted or it's going to get kind of lumpy.
Keep stirring. I think it'll come to. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, who doesn't love chocolate, right? So just take a couple spoons of this and mix it in, just to kind of
good
change the temperature a little bit here.
Good. That's called tempering.
Tempering, see? I didn't even know that was a
tempering.
thing. Okay, I'm going to get my...
You're adding the some of the hot, another liquid to the hot liquid.
Yep.
I got that. Yep.
And then we are going to just add this.
And does it get beat in or folded in with the spatula?
I just kind of mix it in with.
All right.
I'll mix it in with the spatula because then we're going to add the the almond flour.
Okay. Are we done with that?
We're done with that.
We're done with the mixer. All right.
No, we're not done with the mixer yet. But okay. So we're going to. Okay, mix that up. You can see it's got a little bit, a little bit of, and it doesn't really change the taste, and it changes the texture a little bit, but it's not terrible. It still tastes great. So that happens sometimes and sometimes not. So I'll just mix it a little bit.
I bet it has to do with the age of the chocolate and the age of the eggs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then we're going to add. Now you can use ground almonds, which I have done, but I find that almond flour actually works a little bit better.
Okay.
And
now that's so easily available.
It's so easily available. Yeah, when you couldn't find it, you just grind up your almonds in like a coffee grinder or something. But I find the texture is a little bit smoother if you use almond flour.
Okay.
So
there's actually almond meal that you can buy also. That's a coarse almond meal or a fine almond meal, which would be more like this. And this is a really wonderful product. I asked Mindy if she had made these almond flour brownies. Oh my Lord, they are quite something.
Okay, so now,
I'm
just going to beat this for a
recipe
second.
is on the back.
Going to mix it all up. I'm just going to put this chocolate mess in here.
This is an interesting recipe because there's no vanilla in it. It's just very, very basic.
You know, it's a really rich cake.
It's like a fudge cake.
And it is gluten-free, you know, thus the almond flour. So, you know, people have a tendency to think that gluten-free things are going to be kind of boring tasting. I assure you, this is anything but boring. This is really, really delicious. Okay, so now, next we're going to take the pans. Now, I've already cut parchment paper, and you'll notice I have these couple of funny little ears, or whatever you want to call them. This cake has a tendency to stick in the pan, so...
even though we're going to grease it.
Even though we're going to grease it, it can be really hard to get out. So, and it cracks very easily. This is probably the hardest part of the mix is
the cake?
Is getting it out of the pan.
Okay.
So, all right, so I'm going to just sort of spray the edges here.
You could probably also do foil and have the edges sticking out.
Yeah,
but I like the parchment paper.
Yeah, the parchment paper. And then just kind of going to split it sort of in half, half in one pan and half in the other.
Something is beeping. Let's make sure it's at the oven. No.
And then we are going to cook it 18 to 24 minutes.
Okay.
Now, my oven at home has a tendency to cook fast and a little bit hotter. So I don't know about the oven here, so we're just going to...
You could actually do this in like 4 smaller pans too, 4 6-ounce pans, 6-inch pans, and have a little bit higher cake. That would be
Do we want to put this in now?
Not just yet, because it's not at 350.
All right.
So.
Well, then I'll just kind of move on to the next step.
All right.
Which is the raspberries.
Okay.
Okay, so we want 12 ounces of frozen raspberries. And we're going to heat that up on the stove with a half a cup of sugar.
At what temp?
Medium to
Okay.
medium high.
Okay.
We want to just get melt that all down.
Okay.
Things off my fingers.
We don't have
Okay.
any wooden spoons here, do we? I don't know. I don't know where they've gone to. Here, try this.
There's that. So, and these raspberries actually sat in the fridge overnight, but usually I just take them right from the freezer. It doesn't really matter. You're just trying to melt it all down, and then we're going to put it through a strainer to get all the seeds out, and you'll end up with some raspberry juice like that.
Okay. A raspberry syrup almost.
Yeah, raspberry syrup, yep.
Okay.
So that'll take a few minutes.
All right, so this is going to come to a simmer
Yep,
and then cook for how long?
just until the raspberries are all melted down.
Okay.
Or pretty
All right,
much
and then
most
we're
of
going to take out the seeds.
We're going to take out the seeds,
All right.
yep.
Okay, so given that, while we wait for that to happen, I am going to show you just a very quick appetizer recipe that I think I will go over the bling because I know I was talking when the mixer was on. But the bling is basically sugar syrup, which is a half a cup of sugar to a cup of water boiled until the sugar dissolves, and then your regular sugar, sparkling sugar. This is a combination of sparkling and some demerara sugar, and as I said before, you dip the berries and the greens into the sugar syrup, and then you just run them through the sugar, and they glisten like they have been in snow, so they can be very pretty. I wonder why we're beeping.
It looks like it snowed on them. Yeah, that's
Yeah, it does
it's
look
kind
like
of a
it
cool
snowed,
little.
yeah.
I always wondered how they did that.
Power.
Easier in your own kitchen where you know everything is, right?
Oh, it smells good.
It
I wish
does.
you guys could smell
It
that.
tastes good too. Yeah.
Okay, I have that on high now, so
Okay,
let's see what's
perfect.
going to happen. All right, so if you want to be the star of a party, bring good food. Serve good food. This is a boule. This is actually a bread boule, not one that I baked, but it's one from the supermarket. And I think it's just a plain boule. It's not a sourdough boule. It's just a basic Tuscan boule. And what we're going to do is we are going to cut a crosshatch pattern in this all the way almost down to, say, an inch from the bottom. So that oven is taking a while, isn't it? So this just gets cut one way. And then it's going to get brushed with a garlic butter with some fresh herbs in it. And finally, some cranberries go into it. And then the best part of all, some brie. And it gets wrapped in foil.
Ooh, yummy.
And it gets baked. So you could do that in advance. You could do it even a day in advance. Wrap it up in foil, keep it in the refrigerator, and then either bake it at 350 in your house or take it to somebody and say, could you just put this in the oven for me for a couple minutes? And I think about 10 minutes.
You know, that's one thing when you go to somebody's house, you want to, I think, ask ahead of time if there's going to be oven space.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Good
nothing
point, yeah.
worse than like 6 people showing up and saying, hey, I need some oven.
Absolutely, absolutely. So continuing with the crosshatch here. All right.
I'm going to
That
start
smells so good.
straining my raspberries here.
And that's a fine mesh sieve. Wow, does that smell nice. You never really think of raspberries having an aroma. But ooh, do they? Good bread knife for this one. That's what's required with this here. There we go. Okay, so you can see this is full of all little nooks and crannies and nice places for good tasting things to go into. And here, ooh, that's a little warm still.
Yeah, careful. And so you got a lot of seeds in here.
So what could we do with all those seeds? I hate to waste them.
I do just throw them out.
Okay.
I have not found another use for them, actually. And, the seeds get caught in your teeth anyway, right?
They do,
So-
yeah, they do, yeah, okay.
All right, so That's probably good, so we don't drip
Okay.
on the floor. I'm going to
All
just
right, great.
dump what's left here in the wastebasket.
Okay, so we're at 3:48, Mindy. We're just about there.
Almost there.
And we will set a timer for 18 minutes and see what happens.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we'll put these guys in.
Okay.
All right, and you're setting a timer?
I am setting a timer.
And I'm going to put this raspberry juice in the refrigerator now to cool off.
Okay. All right, so minutes. 18, start. Okay, and just for us, it's 11:30, just in case. I've had situations where the timers don't always work, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen here. All right, back to our bread. Raspberry is cooling, raspberry
Raspberry's cooling,
syrup is
yep.
cooling, cake is baking, and I am going to be preparing this and showing you how to wrap it up. And actually, we should have one done by the end. So this is a stick of butter that I'm going to melt. Hopefully in 2 minutes. And in the stick of butter is going to go a little bit of garlic and some chopped rosemary and some fresh chopped thyme. And I find it easiest to chop it all together. I think that it really, there's no sense in chopping the two of them separately. You just need the garlic, the butter, and the thyme. This is from my herb garden this morning. Still popping. Do you have a garden, Mindy?
I do.
What do you have still in it? Anything?
You know, my rosemary is still looking okay.
Yeah.
My thyme is looking okay.
Yeah.
Basil's long gone.
Yeah,
If I look
yeah.
under the leaves, I might find a little bit of parsley. Yeah. But pretty much it's just the rosemary and thyme at this point.
Yeah. But I always thought someday when I grow up, I'd like to have a greenhouse full of herbs to have it all done for. Be able to take me through the winter until the spring comes again. But I don't know. I think I'm grown up and I haven't gotten it yet, so I don't know.
So now you're just chopping garlic and rosemary?
Garlic and rosemary.
Ooh.
And I don't know if we have a pastry brush. I don't think we do. Would you look in that drawer for
This
me,
one.
please? Yeah.
I do not see a pastry brush.
Okay.
This is where you learn to improvise when you don't have what you need.
Sure, we improvise here all the time. We improvised once last year. We didn't have our stove. Didn't our stove blow or something? And Bob went home and got his
amazing. The garlic.
Bob
Ooh.
went home and got his camping stove or
Oh.
something. His little
That's
something
funny.
or other. That was great.
Wow, that smells really good.
All right, would you see if that butter is melted,
Yep.
please? I know. I think that FCTV should become the first television station in the country to be able to figure out how to get the smells to their viewers.
Oh, I know.
Wouldn't that make a difference?
That would be fabulous.
All right. Okay, so my butter. And I think I may need your help here, Mindy.
Okay.
Because what we're going to do
What do you need me to do?
I'm going to need you probably to hold the bread open
Okay.
for me.
Wow, that smells fabulous.
So
We do get to taste this stuff,
we do
right?
get to taste this. So if you could just sort of hold it like that, what I will do is fill it with, yeah, that's right. Just drizzle all of this in. I don't want to burn you there. So this is like a step above garlic bread, don't you think?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it smells amazing.
Okay. And then we're going to put in some cranberry sauce. Everybody has cranberry sauce, right? Left over from Thanksgiving, early December. I get my cranberry sauce made for me every year. I don't know if people remember Lori Eisman, who used to have Lorene's in Heritage Park, and then she had Lorene's on Main Street, but she has moved to Arizona.
Oh my!
And I don't know how to get cranberries in Arizona. She mails it every single year. Now this is like the 4th or 5th year that we've had her cranberry sauce.
It's not hard to make.
No, it's not. But there's something wonderful about getting the same person's cranberry sauce every year and just having it be a tradition. I'm back to my bread. All right. So now what we do is in between all of these little things, we just drizzle a little bit of cranberry sauce. So while I do that, would you be so kind as to cut up, this is a wonderful brie. This is called Dauphinois. It's as French as you can get. I can get it in the local supermarkets. I know that Jen at the North Falmouth Cheese Shop carries it. Certainly Windfall Market carries it. But it's really the closest to what I've had in France to here. So it's been sitting out a little bit, so it should probably be more chilled. So your job is not going to be that easy. But sorry, if you could just cut it into little, like half-inch pieces for me.
Okay.
Could you work on that while I do the cranberry sauce part, please?
Put that
Yeah,
here?
I'll put it right there for you.
Right.
Okay. All right. So as I said, this certainly could be done in advance and left overnight. Or you could do it the morning of. And then what's going to happen is after it bakes and gets all gooey and wonderful, of course, what then happens is you take it out and serve it with plenty of napkins.
Wait, right?
That's perfect, yeah.
How much do you need?
The whole thing.
The whole thing, okay.
The whole thing.
Gotcha.
It's pretty messy to make and pretty messy to eat, but wow, it's probably as delicious.
Doesn't it seem like sometimes the best things to eat are the messiest?
Yeah, true. It's true. And this is also pretty, which is not as pretty as our chocolate cake is going to be, but. So our timer is working. We have 12 more minutes.
12 more minutes on the cake. Okay.
And then we want to cool the cake. So you think we should throw them in the freezer? I think probably.
Sure.
Cool them down that way.
I've not tried that before. We'll see how that works out.
Well, you haven't been under.
They don't take long. It doesn't take as long to cool as a regular flour cake. So that's the good news.
Okay. The other thing too is that you haven't been making it on television before, where you have to get it all
haven't.
all done.
This is my first time doing that.
This is your first time making cake on television?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Well, that's nice. I'm honored to have Mindy here. All right, so how does that look?
That looks good. And here's my mess of a pile of cheese.
That's fine. If you start, keep it on your hands. We're just going to get really dirty.
Okay.
And you go over here, we'll do it.
Oh, I see, we'll do it together.
Back and back,
okay.
Okay.
You just
and
stick
just
pieces in?
Stick it in, yep.
I'm more excited to try this than the cake, but I've had the cake before.
Well, I'm more excited to try both of them.
Now, is this a recipe that you came up with yourself? Or?
This is one of these that sort of makes the rounds of, the internet. As a food writer and as a cooking teacher, I descend into the black hole of the internet at least once a day.
I say it's also kind of fun to take these recipes, you try them, and then add your own adaptations to them. And it's like a little experiment.
Absolutely. And the problem, however, with a lot of the recipes on the internet, unless you know your blogger or you know your source pretty well, you have no guarantee that they're actually going to work.
Right.
So there have been.
They're not always tested.
They're not always well tested, or there's typos. But even when I write my recipes for the food column, there's typos. But my copy editor is Laura Gross Higgins, and she makes me look good.
Well, I have to tell you that this is not my cake is not a recipe that I came up with. It was a friend of a friend, And you noticed that when I said you make the eggs and sugar into a mousse, it was spelled M-O-O-S-E.
So
and as
cute.
many years as I have had this, I never noticed that.
That was so cute. It was really adorable. I did change it for television, but
Which is
all right.
fine.
Okay, so because this sort of looks a little bit like a mess, we are going to try to fix it up some. And then cranberry sauce, butter, herbs, and just going to do this like
wow.
this just to...
Not even done yet. Wow.
Because it does have the fresh thyme and the fresh rosemary in it, so we can put this on top.
Are we done with this?
We're done with that, yes, thank you. Okay, so this is going to go into the oven in foil. I remembered where it was today. I think we want to do 2. Oh. So let's turn the oven back on, Mindy. Actually, the cake.
We have the cake.
8 minutes of cake,
We
okay.
have 8 seconds, I think.
No, 8 minutes, I think.
Oh, no, 8, really? Oh, 8 minutes, okay.
Okay, we got time.
Just gonna peek at it.
Okay.
Looking good.
The eggs are making it rise, right?
Looking good.
Okay, so this.
It doesn't rise very much, actually, just a little bit. Wow,
All
that
right.
looks good.
So when we think of gifts from the kitchen, one of the things that you could do is consider this a gift. Take it to someone, even on Christmas Day, you know, just take it and...
I'd be happy if somebody brought that over on
yeah,
Christmas Day. I'd be
yeah.
happy if they brought it over on any day.
Just present it. You could actually tie it up if you wanted with some nice ribbon. Although round shapes are always hard to tie up, but you could tie it up. I would suggest if you're gift giving, I would suggest doing it like this, then putting it on a board that people can serve from. And it always you need very messy, like I said, you want napkins, but you can also have these little babies to dig in. And I might just decorate it with one of those pretty bows and maybe some nice little bit of holly to put around it. And this would be your gift.
On the outside, you can't eat that.
You can't eat that.
Yeah,
So this would be the gift with a card that had the instructions.
What about, would you even consider maybe decorating it with some of the edible things you have there?
I would if they looked better. They are sort of not what they should be, but Falmouth Is Cooking. Here's what happened. I brought my sugar in a jar, in a bowl, and my water. Well, I did in another bowl for the sugar syrup, and I put it in the oven, and I in the microwave, and started to make a sugar syrup. And I realized that it wasn't sugar; it was salt. As soon as I tasted it, it was salt. It wasn't making a syrup. It wasn't dissolving. So my sugar syrup is a little funky. It's got a little bit of the demerara sugar in it, which really shouldn't make that much of a difference. But really, Mindy has this wonderful sugar, which is great for her cake, but not great for the bling.
But you know, this is a good example of everybody makes mistakes, no matter how seasoned you are, because you are a very seasoned cook.
I am a seasoned
and yet
cook.
You still occasionally will make a mistake.
Occasionally. I think I do it like
push this
like that.
Like that.
I think I do it like once a month on here. So, all right, there we go. 5 minutes, it's warning us. But you are correct. I think when we serve it, and actually as you continue to assemble your cake, what I'm going to do is work on this bling and try to get it a little better, presentable, better
presentation.
Presentation needs a lot of work, and I'm going to be working on that while you are finishing up your cake. So I will move this to here. Okay, and then this can go in when the cake comes out. Perfect. All right, so where are we with your cake now?
5 minutes.
All right, and the raspberry syrup.
Raspberry syrup is cooling in.
Okay.
And with the raspberry syrup, once I do the whipped cream, we're going to put about half of that syrup into the whipped cream, and then we save some, like which I showed you in the jars over here. This is left over from the one I made yesterday.
Okay.
And what you're going to do with these, if you want to, you could even not, but is to decorate the plate when you put the cake on it. It's just like a
When
little,
so with a little drop, or you could put it in one of those bottles, like
and
the
make a little
squeezy,
design on your plate. Yeah.
mustard bottles, I call them, or I guess we call them decoration bottles. I don't know
Yes,
what we
yeah.
make.
Sometimes I just take a spoon and just,
Yeah, do that.
Yeah,
Right. We'll make
exactly.
sure we put some on some white plates so people
so you can see it.
people
Yeah.
know what we're doing. All right, so let's work on this for a minute, Mindy. Why don't you see if you can help me here, and see about.
Okay, what is it we're trying to do? I
we're
wasn't
trying
paying attention
to.
because I
No,
was doing
that's
my
all right.
cake.
I know. We're dipping this in the sugar water,
Yep.
and then we are putting it on some parchment paper, and we're trying to get
Dipping
it.
in some of that sugar.
Yeah, which is how we do it every year at Highfield. We've been doing it for a very long time, and one of my volunteers is the Bling Queen.
And what is it? Now the sugar is sparkly. Is it the size of the sugar that's making it look sparkly?
Yeah, it's the size. It's also called, it's literally called
I mean, what the other one might have.
a sparkling sugar.
This one I think is a little looser.
Okay. And there are days when things work and days when they don't.
Yeah.
So, welcome to cooking. So that, though,
But
you can
that's
see
okay, that's not
that
bad.
can be pretty. And then these, there you
Little
go.
berries there.
All right.
Now see, that looks pretty.
That
yeah,
looks better.
With the bread
Okay,
in the middle.
okay.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
yes.
I feel a little better.
And-
Okay.
And then that way you don't have to worry about eating something they shouldn't be eating,
That's
like the
true.
holly.
One of the things you want, exactly. One of the things you want to make sure when you do anything, an edible garnish of any sort, be it, what do I want to say, herbs or flowers especially, you definitely want to
Make sure they're edible.
make sure that they're edible, because you know people are going to eat it.
You know, I have another great holiday tip for gardeners. If you happen to have saved any of your nasturtium, I have a mold and I put nasturtium flowers on the bottom.
Yeah.
A little bit of water, let it freeze a little bit, and then I fill the rest with the water. Put it in the freezer, and then you can use it in your punch bowl. And it's got these very the pretty nasturtiums
I love nasturtiums.
as it melts, it starts to float in the punch.
Oh, that would be
Completely
beautiful.
edible. Yeah.
You could do that with pansies too, couldn't you?
I think so. I
Yeah,
haven't
because
tried it.
pansies are edible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then the nasturtium does add that sort of little peppery
beautiful,
flavor.
beautiful, yes. Because people will eat these. Trust me, they will eat them. And actually, these cranberries are pretty good to eat. I've actually
They're raw, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I have to
tried one. They're good. A little tart,
A little tart, but
but
sugar helps.
sugar helps.
Got 1 minute left on our cake.
Okay. All right, and I have the rest of the month to work on my bling. So. It's funny. Cooking is always an adventure. There's always something different, no matter what. I can hear it in there clicking away.
All right, let's find those
Do we need to
holders.
test that? You know how you test a cake when recipes say bake until
I
done?
have not found that you can stick a toothpick in this and know if
'Cause it's so
done.
fudgy.
It's thin, yeah.
Okay.
Let's just take a look.
Okay.
I think it looks pretty good.
Okay.
So we're going to take these out.
It's lighter than I thought.
Sometimes it does get a little darker. Now you want to stick your bread in there, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. We'll get these guys out of the way. All right. So to speed this up, we're going to try cooling them in the freezer, you think, or the
Yes.
fridge?
No, I think the freezer.
The freezer,
I think that's
all
the way. In the pans, you think?
Well, I can't take them out of the pans yet until they're
all
cooler.
right.
They'll
So
fall
yes.
apart. Yeah.
And then put one on the ice. And put the other one in there, and then we can work on the filling, yes?
Yep.
So that's our
Well, the
bling.
pan doesn't go on the ice. It won't fit. Let's try fitting it down here.
And we're going to stop with that amount because sometimes when stuff just isn't working the way it should be working, you need to walk away and leave it, like a computer, I guess. You okay there?
Okay.
All right.
Made it fit.
Okay.
All right, next.
Are we whipping cream?
We're whipping cream.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we got to wash the
We
beaters.
do. Okay. You can tell that we are very well rehearsed with this one today.
You'll have to tell some other holiday secrets while I do this.
All right, holiday secrets. Don't eat the holly. Holiday disasters. Got any disasters? I would.
I think the big thing about this is don't let little mistakes throw you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world, right?
True. I think I would put my bringing kosher salt instead of my sugar for my bling. I'd consider that to be a disaster, something of a disaster. But there's a lot worse things that can happen, certainly.
Okay, so pick up our beater.
All right. Okay, ready for noise again.
Not quite yet. We're going to, we need another little pan, which is down here. We got to heat up the milk and the sugar first.
Okay.
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. That's the ganache. I'm getting a step ahead of myself. This is, we're doing the cream in here.
So you're going to be whipping the cream,
gonna
and
whip
I'm
the-
getting a pan ready for you for the chocolate ganache. Okay?
Correct. So I just want to make sure. So, yep. Okay, so yes, what we're going to do, whip the cream. And then we're going to take out the raspberry syrup and my spatula here.
And we're going to fold that in.
Yep.
So this is the filling.
This is, and it's the filling.
Okay.
It's going to go over the whole cake though, which you will see. Oh, here, just over here. So
Do you think I should bring the other one out let it come a little bit to room temp?
What's
The
that?
finished one, should I bring the other one out and let it come to room temp? The
cake?
the finished one.
Yeah, it might take a few minutes.
Yeah.
So just going to put a little bit in there. And we're just going to fold this in.
And that's done?
Yep. You can see it's starting to turn pink.
How old is your mixer?
Oh, right there. Hold on. Eject. There you go.
How old?
How old is this? I think I got that when I lived in Vermont, which was
Lord.
the 1980s.
Okay.
So it's hey, it still works. Why,
Absolutely.
why get rid of something if it's working, right?
Absolutely.
I bet it works better than the new ones, honestly.
I bet it's better than having to schlep a KitchenAid back and forth into here. Oh, isn't that pretty?
Yeah, so it's this is a good cake for Valentine's Day as well.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
Lord,
'cause
yes.
pink with the raspberries on top. Okay, so that is all set. So I'm going to put this back in the fridge
Okay.
till we have the cakes ready.
Okay. And we have more raspberry syrup
See, this
here.
will be the leftover raspberry sauce. Put that
Okay.
back in the
All right,
refrigerator
okay.
as well. And we can probably do the ganache because it can sit for a few minutes. So what
Okay.
we're going to do now for the ganache is we're going to heat up the cream. Let's see, which is, we have a cup of whipping cream. So I put
We
that
can
in.
use this right here.
Yeah, we can use that because that's
To
what we
measure.
use for the.
Ganache is wonderful. Ganache is so easy. It's one of the, I call it like a pastry chef's hidden secret, real trick to have, to be able to do it put it on brownies, you can put it on ice cream, you can just do just about anything with it, and make truffles.
Yeah.
All it is heavy cream and melted chocolate.
So that is our cup of heavy cream,
uh-huh.
and this is a tablespoon of sugar.
Okay.
And we're going
Not
to turn
salt,
that.
right?
No, we're going to turn. I hope not. We're going to turn that on.
Okay. On. What temp, Mindy?
Medium to medium high.
Okay.
You want it to get hot and just boil.
Okay.
Let me find my whisk.
Okay. I have it on like 7.5 out of 10. Okay.
We'll just watch it.
All
We're
right.
standing right here, so it's okay.
Okay.
Now, how long do you keep your bread in the oven for?
15, 20 minutes.
15, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
okay.
The cheese just has to melt, and the bread has to get a little crispy and crusty. And
So what we're going to do is bring this mixture just to a boil, so it starts to boil, and then I'm going to pour it on top of the chocolate. And we're going to let it sit for 5 minutes, and
Okay.
it will melt the chocolate, and then we'll stir it up, and then we'll let it sit until we're ready to frost the cake, and that's when we'll stir it again.
we'll assemble too. Okay. And we're calling this, I have it on my recipe here as Mindy Todd's flourless chocolate cake, but you
Stolen from, and I don't know who. I mean, my friend, she had a party, and somebody brought this. Somebody, and I don't even know if the woman who brought its name was Emily or if it was a recipe she took. It was called Emily's Surprise Cake. So I can't take credit for coming up with the actual recipe.
Okay. There was an article in the New York Times yesterday on copywriting recipes. Very interesting. Essentially, not coming down to any answer at all, just saying that all of us who write recipes, do things with recipes, there's just no copywriting available for them.
But I think when you know, you want to give credit where credit is
Absolutely.
due, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you know
Right.
where it came from.
Right.
And it's hard because, you know, who says you wouldn't come up with some combination that somebody else came
That's
up
right,
with as well?
that's
So I
right.
could see where it would be very difficult.
But I guess one of the things that people were saying in the article was that you really do need to, like you said, give credit. If you know, give credit where credit is due. But also, many people change just a few things in the ingredients or in the way to
make it their own.
to make it their own. And yet, when people have taken other people to court for stealing their, I think it was about cupcakes. It was about corn cupcakes of some sort. It didn't hold up because they had just done things significantly different enough that they weren't able to say, I own this, and from there. So but it is a slippery slope, and it's something I've been concerned about. I've been writing recipes now for 36 years for the enterprise.
Wow.
And hasn't happened yet, but I don't know. Where's some wood to knock on? I don't know if that's wood.
And have you had, I'm wondering, we did a radio show with Annie Copps, food editor at Yankee Magazine, and she gave us that wonderful recipe.
Yes, Julie Sani's chutney.
Indian chef, and boy, it was delicious.
You made that, and it was really
I did.
good.
I mean, when she described it, I was like, oh, I have to have that.
Yeah.
And it really came out, I thought, really good. Different, you know, I mean, cranberry sauce, my husband doesn't really like cranberry sauce, but he liked this because, you know, it had, you know, cumin in it and
Didn't it have pistachios?
It has pistachios and figs.
It was much more of a chutney.
Yeah.
Really
oh my
good.
gosh, it was really delicious.
That was in the paper just before Thanksgiving, I think.
Yeah, and if you haven't tried it, you should try it. Even if you don't think you don't like cranberry sauce, you might be surprised.
And if you think you don't like chutney, you could try it. That would be fabulous in this bread.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good?
Would be.
No, I don't mean
so
to
this
take
is
away
just
from Lori's
boiling now.
sauce, but
I'm going to pour this in here.
all right.
And you see it covers the chips.
Okay.
And then we're just going to let that sit for about 5 minutes.
All right. Okay. And let's take this beautiful one out and show people what we're getting to.
It's a little bit heavy, be careful.
Okay. Oh my Lord.
Do you need help?
Nope.
Got it.
Isn't that pretty? Whoa. That is beautiful.
So that's what it should look like in the end.
Gorgeous.
And I told you how the cake can, sometimes, I mean, I've actually had it where it has fallen apart as I'm taking it out of the pan. That's my little handles.
Yeah.
So I just, like a puzzle, put it back together.
Yep.
And that's the great thing about this whipped cream. You're gonna, because you do the cake and then you do the whole outside.
You do the ganache on the outside.
You do the ganache on top.
Right.
So it's very forgiving. You can make it look pretty even if it has fallen apart.
Good.
So don't
Good.
despair
Okay.
if you have trouble.
I tell people that about a bûche de Noël too, because what you're doing is you have the genoise, the flat, which this is basically a genoise as well. And when you roll it up, if it cracks, it's okay because it's going to get covered with something.
And it still tastes good.
Yeah, and if worse comes to worse and something happens with the ganache, there's always powdered sugar and bling.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you
I've
know,
only
we
had
could
the
put a little bit of
ganache
this
fail me
around.
once, and I'm not sure why. It was much too liquidy, and I think it might have been I used a different type of chocolate, and that's all I can think that was
Or
different.
your cream could have been bad.
Maybe. Look how pretty that is.
How's that?
Yeah.
That adds a little bit of, not hot, and certainly not, what do I want to say, not Valentine's Day, but definitely for Christmas.
Yeah. But you can see how that would be pretty for Valentine's Day, too.
Absolutely. And delicious.
Yeah.
There. Not too much. All right, I'll do a little more here. See if I can get a little more bling going. So we are waiting on the cakes to cool, is that?
Yep. I'll take a little peek and see how they're going.
Rosemary. You can actually use, this is a good point, you can use the rosemary for bling, you can use thyme, but you really don't want to use an herb that has a soft leaf. You really want to keep it to as much as you can, to a more substantial leaf. So thyme is pretty soft.
Now,
You want to put that right there?
Shall I put this on a different plate? I mean, the new cake. What plate are we going to
The
put that on?
new cake, let's just put it on a pretty white platter. That work?
Sure. Okay, here comes the hardest part.
Oh, okay.
Is the getting. Oh, I need a knife.
Make sure that people can see.
So I run a knife around the edge just to loosen everything up here.
There we go. It's beautiful.
So you can see how it sort of cracks a little bit, even when I'm doing this. If you can see that, I don't know if you can see it's sort of cracking a little bit.
How cool is it? Is it cool
It's
enough?
cool. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a good tip. I'm just going to get some of this over the sink so I don't make a big mess over there. Okay, let's see.
Oh, they are thin little layers,
Yeah,
aren't
they're very thin. And I tip it upside down just because
Okay.
that top layer does crack a bit.
Okay.
So I do it like that. Get some of these crumbs off of there. So there's layer number one.
Okay.
And
Looks good.
So let's see.
And I can see where you say that it cracks, but
Yep.
you can certainly clean that right
And
up.
it usually does come a little bit thicker than this. I'm not sure why it's a little bit thinner than usual, but
Because we're on television.
so we're
Because
just
you're
gonna,
doing it on television.
so I'm just gonna spread the filling in here. And I don't really worry about running out of this because I have more raspberry sauce and more whipping cream. If I needed to, make a little bit more, I
Yeah.
can do that. So just get that. all
That's
around
beautiful.
That, and then I'm going to get the second layer.
Beautiful color.
Do the same thing with the knife around the edges. Okay.
I keep picking up the wrong one here. Get rid of it.
See, my little handles work.
That's perfect.
Magic.
Absolutely.
Can't tell you how many times I've had trouble
You
trying
could probably market that.
to make $1 million.
Make $1
right?
million.
Okay, so we got that on top
Mindy's
of that.
wings.
All right, now we're going to put some more of this there. Put that in the sink.
Such a pretty color. Oh, Lord.
And if you want, I mean, you can really adjust if you want to taste the flavor as you're going. If you want it to be a little sweeter, you can add a little more of that raspberry sauce, and that will make it a little bit sweeter. You want it a little less sweeter, just a little lighter pink.
You could also, if you wanted to, take the ganache and do a pattern on top.
I've not tried. So I'm going to even do the sides here. I'm doing covering
have
the
enough,
whole
okay.
thing up. I'll have enough.
I'll get your spatula for the rest of it.
I just put it in the sink, so
Okay.
it's probably one right there. So I'm covering the whole thing in this raspberry whipped cream. And then we're going to put this in the refrigerator to set for a few minutes. And then
Just put it around the
yeah,
edges.
just around the edges, yep.
Okay.
And then we're going to do exactly the same thing with the ganache that we're doing right here with the whipped cream. So that's why I say you have a little leeway if you run into any problems with cracking or a piece breaks off. You just glue it back on with a little whipped cream and ganache.
Who
Right?
knew that would be glue, right? Best glue in the world.
It's a tasty glue.
Tasty glue. Not Gorilla Glue.
No, definitely not Gorilla Glue. Okay. And then don't worry about making a little bit of a mess on the plate because you can clean it. We always clean it up a little bit later. All right,
Okay.
so that is
Okay.
all set and ready
And
to
now
go.
it goes in the refrigerator.
And we're going to put it back in the
set,
refrigerator to
all right?
set.
And you're going to need your spatula again, right?
I'm
for
going to
the-
need my spatula and the
ganache.
spreading
Okay.
knife. And I think it's been about, don't mix my fingers. I think it's been about 5 minutes, so I am going to now stir up that chocolate.
Okay.
Get the whisk.
Okay. And the bread just has a couple more minutes, so I think we're going to be finishing right about on time.
Now,
So your little
interesting.
one doesn't think you abandoned him.
What's interesting now, you see how should be thicker. I ran out of the Ghirardelli chocolate and used a different kind.
Okay.
That might be my problem. We'll
Do you
see what
have
happens.
more?
I do.
Should we add just, a little?
Yeah, well, I just probably add a little more chocolate to it. But so I guess it does make a difference what type of chocolate you use.
Well, I think it makes a difference.
Well, there's a little Ghirardelli left.
There
in
is,
Maybe
yes.
Let's melt that into something. A little cup or something in here. How about this?
Yep. The other thing that I was going to say is butterfat. The amount of butterfat in the chocolate will make a difference. So this is bittersweet chocolate that has, let's see here. If it
Oh, are you
tells us.
comparing it with
Yeah, comparing it with the
Yeah, that
Ghirardelli.
could be. I think this might have been the reason I had that problem that one time was I used a different chocolate. So see, by watching your show, Gail, we get to see like mistakes and how to fix them.
Absolutely,
Hopefully,
we do.
right?
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, microwave. I'm looking for
The ingredients?
the butter fat, which I'm not seeing. Total fat 6 grams. Total fat 6 grams. So it's very similar. It really is. Who knows?
Well, we're going to add in that other little bit of melted chocolate.
The
and
one
hopefully
other
make a
thing that we
difference.
could add to thicken it would be butter, if we had to. But I think that should be okay. Does that need to stand to thicken?
It should have already done that with
All right.
with what we did already. Let's see if this is melted enough. No, that needs to melt a little more. Put it in for another minute.
Okay, I'm going to take my bread out.
Oh, yes.
Okay. See how this is looking. Oh, smell the garlic.
Oh, I smell it too. It smells great. I can probably turn this off, right?
All right, let's see what happened.
I'll move it so we can see it.
Okay. Oh, look at that.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah. Oh boy. How does
Wow.
that look? I think someone would like it if you took that to someone's house for a
Yes.
party. And with my asbestos
Careful.
fingers, I will bring it over to this. And there you have it.
Wow.
How is that?
Ouch. Got hot.
Ooh. Okay. And some of my herbs that were in it got a little dried out. And we'll just put those there. Whoops, sorry. And this is, as I said, a pull-apart bread. Oh my Lord. And you definitely need a lot of napkins here, Mindy.
I don't think our little experiment here is going to work. but
Uh-oh. So
hang on. This seemed to be just get clumpy.
if we had a pantry that had cornstarch or butter,
Try adding some of this in here and
I
see
think
what
we-
happens.
I have cocoa powder and kosher salt, neither of which I
Well,
think would do anything.
The
But
other thing, rather than have this new cake that we made be a total disaster, I'll just do that at home, and we get the idea.
We do.
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
and then you just decorate the top with some raspberries, and voila.
Okay. So I think we need to cut into that. I did put out a cake cutter, but of course, who knows where it
yeah,
is.
and I'll put this in here, just see
Just
what
see,
happens. But
okay.
it doesn't look like it's going to work, but we'll try it.
All right. So a couple of problems that we've had to solve. How does that sound? Challenges? Is
Challenges
that's
today,
the word,
that's right.
challenges today. But that's,
Yeah, that's a little bit too thin. so
yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
we,
move
with
that.
all the work that went into that other cake, I don't think we want to ruin
yeah,
it by,
no,
by
like I
doing
said,
that,
I'll find some
Okay.
more Ghirardelli and we'll do that.
Okay, and make a whole new glaze
Make
for
a
it.
whole-
So
yeah.
there's your answer. Okay, there's your answer. When that happens,
Just
have one.
luckily we had
For
one that
spare.
came out perfect. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we have this. And we have an appetizer. And I think we have lunch, my dear.
Oh, yum.
Oh, this is beautiful.
And you don't really need much of a piece
No.
with these. It's so rich that, you know, if you cut somebody a big piece, they're never going to finish it. So I try to place
Slivers.
the raspberries in a position that one raspberry is a piece.
Oh, this looks wonderful. Want to get 2 forks?
Yes.
Oh, that looks beautiful. It cuts really well, too. So you would suggest making this in advance and chilling it overnight?
Yes.
Okay.
You can see the layer in the middle. The chocolate on top.
And you can see that we haven't even
Taking the
our labels
Shh,
off.
don't tell.
They can see.
So,
All right, let's see what this tastes like.
cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Mindy. Oh,
It's good.
oh, it's perfect. It's not too sweet. Oh, and the chocolate is just
Very chocolatey.
the ganache. And I love the raspberry. Now let's do this. Let's just play for 1 second. We had talked about this.
Oh, we forgot about the raspberry
Yeah,
sauce. I
yeah.
do that all the time.
Forget about it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. And let me just get a little spoon and we can drizzle it on.
Okay.
So even though we didn't make it like perfectly fancy beautiful,
Yeah.
you could just have a little, just even
Yep.
if you just put a little spoon there.
Yep. And I'm going to cover up my label
And then you can just sort of dab your,
with that. And there we go.
oh, yummy.
Those are beautiful. Oh, and just dab it in. Terrific. All right, let's just try one more of these. I think the people at the television station are going to have a
They're
good day
wishing
today.
they could be here eating with
Well,
us.
they're going to come
So
in.
where,
some
how do
of
you
them.
eat this? You just
So I would just, use that and just
pick in a piece?
pick and piece. It's really definitely, absolutely.
That's really good.
Finger food of the best sort.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being here. It's been really fun. Sorry we had a couple of disasters, but
Not a problem.
learn from it. Falmouth is Cooking. We're still cooking. We're going to be starting next year, 2022, with a series that I'm calling Cook the Book. We're going to have some local authors come in with their cookbooks.
Great.
And I've got 4 in the process of being lined up, and we'll be doing that in 2022. And to everyone who watches, have very, very wonderful holidays, and you too especially.
Thank you.
So much for coming
Thanks.
in. Thank you.
Cooking in Falmouth is made possible in part by the following. Appliances donated by Crane Appliance. Kitchen installation donated by M. Duffney Builders. Specialty Studio Electric and Gallery installation donated by David Rogers Electric. Kitchenware donated by Eastman's Hardware.